Dakar.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Banjul, 7 p.m. in Porto Novo. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Malian government offers multi-billion CFA rewards for key terrorist leaders of JNIM and Azawad movement. CSO leaders call for access to justice for women in West and Central Africa. Senegal pays national tribute to former President Abdoulaye Wade at 100 years old. Abidjan demolitions displace dozens of families in flood-risk communities.
Look at the children here. They are not living in peace. We have been displaced.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
The news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for joining us. We begin in Mali, where the transitional government has announced a major financial rewards for information leading to the arrest or location of several leaders of jihadist and separatist groups operating in the country. In a statement issued this Thursday, the Ministry of Security and Civil Protection said rewards ranging from 500 million to 2 billion CFA francs will be paid for reliable and actionable intelligence that helps authorities track down wanted individuals accused of threatening national security. The highest reward, set at 2 billion CFA francs, targets Iya al-Ghali, the leader of the group for the support of Islam and Muslims known as Janim, an Al-Qaeda-linked coalition active across the Sahel. Atiowin Mbila completes the story.
Malian authorities are also offering 1.5 billion CFA francs each for information leading to the arrest of Amadou Kufa, deputy leader of JNIM and head of Katiba Masina, including Abdoulaye Mamadou Bakaye Diallo, also known as Juleyib of Nampala. Additionally, a reward of 1 billion CFA francs has been announced for Al-Gabas Ag Intala, a senior negotiator for the Azawad Liberation Front. 4 other wanted individuals, including Bilal Ag Asherif, Secretary General of the FLA, are each subject to rewards of 500 million CFA francs. The announcement comes less than 2 weeks after Malian authorities imposed targeted financial sanctions on several personalities and the Azawad Liberation Front, accusing them of supporting or maintaining links with armed groups involved in attacks against state forces. The Azawad Liberation Front, a coalition of northern Malian independence movement, is accused of participating in attacks against Malian armed forces and cooperating with JNIM. Malian authorities say the latest measures form part of a broader strategy combining financial, judicial and security actions aimed at combating terrorism and armed rebellion across the country.
Atiowin Mbila with that report. Meanwhile, a federal high court in Abuja, Nigeria has sentenced 4 men to death for their role in a 2022 attack on St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Odon State. Justice Emeka Iwat declared the ruling on Wednesday, nearly 4 years after the attack that claimed the lives of about 40 worshippers and shocked the nation. Analysts say the verdict represents a major step in the pursuit of justice for victims and families affected by one of Nigeria's deadliest attacks on a place of worship. WDR's correspondent Yechenu Sasetu reports.
The 4 defendants were convicted on multiple terrorism-related charges, including hostage-taking, kidnapping, terrorism financing, and the detonation of explosives. Idris Abdul Malik Omeiza, Al-Qasim Idris, Jamiu Abdul Malik, and Abdul Halim Idris were found guilty, while a 5th defendant was acquitted due to insufficient evidence. The attack, which occurred in June 2022 during a Pentecost Sunday service, claimed the lives of dozens of worshippers and left many others injured, drawing widespread condemnation within and outside Nigeria. Reacting to the judgment, lead prosecutor Ayodeji Adedipe describes the verdict as a victory.
We are happy because justice has been served, justice has been done to the deceased who were murdered in cold blood, to their family members, to the our community, the society at large. And this is another statement, bold statement by the federal government.
However, counsel to the defendant, Abdullahi Muhammad, expresses dissatisfaction.
We are appealing it. I've told my lord, even in the open court, I'm going upstairs.
Security consultant Charles Omole says the judgment sends a strong message to criminal elements.
Over the years, what we see is negotiation with these terrorists. They will release the people they capture, but they will leave the terrorists alone. So we should have a situation where if you kidnap, whichever way we extract the people you are kidnapping, you cannot go away scot-free. It's either you are captured and prosecuted or you are neutralized.
Meanwhile, Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa has welcomed the verdict, describing it as a major step towards justice for the victims and their families. The traditional ruler of the Owo Kingdom, the Olowo of Owo, has also praised the court's decision, saying it would bring some measure of closure to the community still recovering from the tragic attack. For the WADR, Yechene Sasitu in Abuja.
Still in Nigeria, the federal government has launched its first ever National Plastic Summit in the capital, Abuja. Faced with an escalating crisis of over 2.5 million tons of plastic waste generated annually, local authorities are pivoting towards a circular economy model designed to turn environmental waste into sustainable livelihoods. Usma Umar has the details.
The maiden edition of the National Plastic Summit opens a vital chapter in West Africa's approach to ecological preservation and green industrialization. Across Nigeria, rapid urban growth has left sensitive ecosystems from the coastal breaches to the fragile mangrove forest of the Niger Delta, heavily threatened by single-use plastics and clogged municipal drainages. Delivering the summit's keynote address, the Minister of Environment, represented by the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Saliu Aminu Usman, stated that the status quo has brought severe developmental blockages that the nation can no longer afford to ignore.
This is not an environmental issue. It is a development issue. It affects agriculture, fisheries, tourism, public health, and overall quality of life in our communities. Plastic pollution also carries enormous economic costs through lost productivity, healthcare expenses, and environmental cleanup. This summit must therefore move us beyond awareness and into action. It must help us build a sustainable plastic economy.
To achieve this sustainable transition, the government is introducing an aggressive operational roadmap that prioritizes extended producer responsibility, forcing manufacturers and importers to take full accountability for the life cycle of their packaging. Crucially, the plan relies on launching a newly designed financing model and an active task force to unlock global investments for local recycling networks and waste-to-wealth infrastructure. Stakeholders from both civil society and the private sector emphasize that success hinges on breaking down systemic consumer behavior patterns and harmonizing regulatory policies so that the entire plastic value chain speaks with a single unified voice. Osasui Dirisu is the Executive Director of the Policy Innovation Center, while Adebisi Adeoti is the Managing Director of the Dow Chemical Limited.
At the core of getting people to be more aware of the opportunities in the circular economy is just changing the mindset around collection of plastic at source, because many times when plastic gets to the dump sites, the value becomes
So majorly we're just setting like the strategic view, for the next 10, 15, 20 years and bringing everybody together to see how we can, take conversations from plastic being a major problem to actually how can we turn it to economic empowerment.
For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, away from Nigeria, we turn to Senegal as the country is paying tribute this Thursday and Friday to former President Abdoulaye Wade on his 100th birthday. A conference on his political struggle and legacy will be held tomorrow Friday at the African Renaissance Monument in Dakar. earlier today, Thursday, during an official ceremony that brought together political and religious figures. Members of his political party and family members paid numerous tributes. President Abdoulaye Wade, who currently resides in France, was unable to attend the ceremony. Senegalese head of state Bassirou Diomaye Faye praised the centenary of this statesman. Here is an excerpt of President Faye's testimony.
La vie du président Wade est plus ancienne que la République elle-même.
President Wade's life is older than the Republic itself. He was there when this country was still only a promise. Today, we are gathered to tell him that we are grateful. We are gathered to tell him that we have not forgotten all that he has given us. President Wade no longer belongs solely to the PDS. He belongs to the heritage of our nation. Even his longevity has become a blessing that we share and celebrate today. Each of us carries a memory of him, a moment of anger, a memorable phrase, a smile, or a laugh that was uniquely his. Such is the privilege of men who have truly lived for their people. They do not leave behind a single memory. They leave as many memories as there are hearts to carry them. He is a man of struggle, never a man of resentment.
Un homme de combat, jamais de rancune.
Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Still in Senegal, several civil society leaders and women's groups are calling for the implementation of recommendations of the 17th section of the Commission on the Status of Women. They made the call during a meeting in Dakar this Thursday. During the CSW Forum held in March this year, UN West and Central Africa Bureau expressed the need to mobilize stakeholders and advance gender equality and women's empowerment in the sub-region. Abdullahi Hassan was at the opening of the two-day forum and now reports.
Recommendations from the CSW70 held in March this year include stronger access to justice for women and girls, stronger action against gender-based violence, greater participation of women in leadership, and increased economic opportunities for women worldwide. But in West and Central Africa, where women remain underrepresented, UN Women, through the Friend-Raising Series, is advocating accelerated action. Mireli Kamitatu is the Deputy Regional Director for the UN Women West and Central Africa Bureau.
We've done two things, working on framework to support women's participation and representation. Other thing is training those that are elected while working on framework that support representation. This is the dual approach that we are using.
Across the sub-region, at least 40% of women are affected by violence. In the Sahel, Mireli Kamitatu says UN Women is working closely with local authorities and community-based organizations to advance women's rights and drive lasting change at the grassroots level.
It has been slow for some of the stakeholders to understand that the security response itself does not guarantee positive outcome, but now it's taking hold and it's having an impact. But it's also an issue, and we come back to the issue of resources because of the scale of what is happening, especially in Central Sahel. But we're seeing in some of the neighboring countries that they start to understand that, and their response has been different.
While participants at the two-day event will deliberate on a sustainable and result-oriented approach to implement recommendations from the CSW70, UN Women states that access to justice for women and gender equality cannot be an afterthought, but central to prosperity and stability in the region.
Abdullahi Hassan Faye, that report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Malian government offers multi-billion CFA rewards for key terrorist leaders of JNIM and Azawad movement. CSO leaders call for access to justice for women in Western Central Africa. Nigeria launches first national plastic summit to drive health creation and circular economy. Senegal pays national tribute to former President Abdoulaye Wade at 100 years old. Still ahead in the news, we have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. We head now to Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, where dozens of families have been displaced following the resumption of government demolitions in flood-risk communities. The latest operation targets the Zimbabwe neighborhood in the Pobwet district as the country enters the peak of the rainy season. Authorities say the clearances are aimed at reducing the risk of deadly floods and preventing potential disasters in vulnerable areas. Imo Edit gives the details in the following report.
Since Tuesday, bulldozers have been tearing down homes and other structures in the Zimbabwe neighborhood of Port Bouet in Abidjan. The operation has left dozens of families displaced, with many residents expressing anger over the demolitions and accusing authorities of carrying out the evictions without adequate consultation or support.
When elections come, we turn out and vote for them. But when problems affect us, they do not come here themselves. Instead, they remain in their offices and send people to destroy our homes and belongings. Look at the children here. They are not living in peace. We have been displaced. My son has not eaten today, and as a parent, I fear for his well-being.
However, authorities say residents were notified several months ago. An awareness campaign were conducted to discourage settlement in areas considered vulnerable to flooding and other environmental risks. Nicholas Baba Coulibaly with the Autonomous District of Abidjan says the operation is part of broader efforts to protect lives and restore urban order.
It's important to understand that we are sometimes forced to act in order to preserve and protect the lives of our fellow citizens, particularly those living within the Abidjan Autonomous District. This also aligns with our objective of achieving zero deaths by the end of this rainy season. Understand that the Abidjan Autonomous District is truly obligated to act to significantly reduce the number of tragic deaths.
The demolition formed part of a wider campaign by Ivorian authorities to clear settlements from high-risk zones ahead of the rainy season. The issue has taken on added urgency this year after heavy rains triggered deadly floods in several parts of the country, causing loss of life and significant property damage. While authorities insist the measures are necessary to prevent future tragedies, critics continue to call for better planning, compensation and resettlement support for affected communities.
A report by Abidjan correspondent Marcel Laroston-Blay and presented by Imo Edit. Elsewhere in the Gambia, the National Water and Electricity Company has attributed the frequent power outages to ongoing maintenance works on its power generation facilities and fuel supply challenges. The explanation comes after weeks of unstable power supply affecting thousands of homes and businesses across the Greater Banjul area and parts of the West Coast region. WDR's Sandona Mendy reports.
Residents and businesses across the Greater Banjul area and the West Coast region continue to grapple with prolonged electricity outages, fueling frustration among consumers and raising concerns about the impact on economic activity and the daily life. Speaking at a press conference organized by the Ministry of Information, Media and Broadcasting Services, NAWEC officials said ongoing maintenance works and fuel supply constraints have reduced the company's ability to meet electricity demands. According to the utility, the disruptions are temporary and form part of efforts to improve the reliability of the national grid.
This highlights just the reality of our own domestic production. It's not neglected. It's actually going to maintenance. Before this process, maintenance was happening, but most people wouldn't know it because we could source power to substitute that.
Energy challenges dominated discussions at the briefing, with Information Minister Ismaila Cisse outlining government efforts to stabilize the country's power supply. He urged the public to remain patient while authorities work to address the situation.
For the past 2 years, who has complained about electricity? If it was a failure, then we would have been complaining for the past 2 years. All we ask for is for the public to bear with us. We are going to solve this problem.
The outages have taken a growing toll on daily lives, disrupting businesses and forcing many families to contend with prolonged periods without electricity. NAWEC says interventions are underway to improve power generation and distribution and expects noticeable improvements within the next 2 weeks. The company has also appealed for public understanding as it works to restore a stable and reliable electricity supply. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Sangdana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
In Liberia, the government now has a new national security strategy covering the period 2026 to 2036. It provides a comprehensive framework to address emerging security threats within the country's borders, strengthening interagency coordination and preserving peace and stability. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
The 2026 to 2036 document is only the second major review of Liberia's national security blueprint since the end of the country's civil conflict following the previous strategy adopted in 2018. It is expected to guide national security planning and implementation efforts over the next decade in support of sustainable development and the protection of Liberia's national interests. Speaking during the launch on Wednesday, Liberia's National Security Advisor, Samuel Kofi Woos, provided an overview of the strategy, emphasizing the need for a proactive and coordinated national response to emerging threats.
This strategy grew out of an extensive review of our operating environment, border and marine vulnerabilities, from emerging transnational crimes to risks posed by climate change, from technological threats in cyberspace. We sought evidence and counsel at every step of the way.
President Joseph Boakai describes the launch of the strategy as a significant milestone in Liberia's journey toward building a peaceful, secure, and resilient nation.
The strategy is not merely a document, it is a reflection of our shared aspiration as a people and a clear roadmap for safeguarding Liberia's sovereignty.
As Liberia enters a new phase of national security planning, authorities say the strategy will ensure that every citizen lives free from fear and with confidence in the country's future. The security strategy comes at a time when governments across West Africa are intensifying efforts to strengthen national security frameworks amid growing regional instability and transitional threats. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, West Africa's shifting political landscape is once again in focus as high-level diplomacy takes center stage. Benin's top leadership has embarked on a series of state visits across the region, engaging with authorities in Niger, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso, three countries currently navigating complex political transitions and security challenges. These visits come at a time when regional cooperation is being tested, particularly with strained relations between ECOWAS and the AES, from security collaboration and economic ties to border management and diplomatic realignment. The engagements have been closely watched. Beyond the symbolism of this visit, what do these meetings truly represent? Our guest Morgan Asogba provides insight into this development.
This is quite a constructive situation in the sense that what is at stake here is not just Benin. And if we should recall what brought in the frustration we've witnessed for the past years between the Sahelian Alliance State and ECOWAS, it also somehow started around Benin position and strong decision to implement the sanction directed toward Niger by the ECOWAS. So if we have to align with what happened and what is happening, it started from Benin and it is also ending right here from Benin. So it's not just in the interest of Benin, but all the ECOWAS states will benefit from it.
So what did President Wadangi do differently in getting an MOU signed with the Nigerian government to reopen the borders again?
Yes, it will be very naive to believe that this is just the effort of President Wadr. I think he was just the piece of nut on the cake, because a lot have been ongoing to make sure that these come to pass. But when you look at the sovereignty nature of some of the states, they needed key actors to be changed. And the change of leadership in Benin has been considered as a strong opportunity that definitely is preceded by key diplomatic action and negotiations to have all this happening right now. I even do believe this is more than a year hard work of several people, be it from the Niger side or from the Benin side.
Morgan Asogba is a regional analyst. And when you hear that sound, it tells you that sports is coming on. The FIFA World Cup is exactly 1 week away from starting. The tournament, which will be hosted in the United States, Mexico, and Canada, will kick off on June 11. A total of 48 teams will compete, but only one will be crowned world football champion. Among the contenders are 10 African nations, including 4 from West Africa. We bring you a special focus on the unique features of these 10 African teams. This Thursday, we begin with the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is returning to the World Cup after a 52-year absence. Let's get the details with Sankule Janko.
It has taken 52 years for the Democratic Republic of Congo to return to the FIFA World Cup. The Leopards were in fact the first sub-Saharan African team to qualify for the tournament back in 1974, a historic achievement at the time. Since then, the Leopards have enjoyed a long absence on the global stage, although they have remained present on the continental scene without making a major breakthrough. With the launch of a new sporting project in 2022 by the Football Federation, DR Congo has begun a process of rebuilding. The country returned to prominence on the continental stage, reaching the semi-finals of the Africa Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire in 2024 and the quarterfinals of the tournament held in Morocco earlier this year. The Leopards then secured their qualification for the 2026 World Cup after progressing through the intercontinental playoffs. In Kinshasa, one of Africa's football capitals, there is growing belief in the revival of DR Congo's national team. The team's preparations is being closely followed, with supporters encouraged by recent performances, including draws against Denmark. In a tightly contested group at the World Cup, alongside Portugal, led by Cristiano Ronaldo, Copa America finalist Colombia and Uzbekistan, DR Congo is seen as having a realistic chance of progressing beyond the group stage, according to sports journalist Ikleru Gono Siro.
I think that here DR Congo has a real opportunity. When you look at DR Congo's recent performances, especially in the last 2 African Cup of Nations tournaments in Côte d'Ivoire and in Morocco, you feel a team that is truly coming of age, really maturing and improving with each competition and each year, with of course Sébastien Desabre remaining in charge of this national team. DR Congo also has many dual nationality players, as well as many of these young talents who are helping to support and strengthen the squad. So in short, apart from Portugal, who are the clear favorite in this group, I would put my money on this DR Congo team.
Coach Sébastien Desabre, the Belgian manager of the DR Congo team, is expected to rely on several dual nationality players who've been part of the squad for several years, as he aims to make history and surpass the achievements of 1974. DR Congo will open its World Cup campaign against Portugal on June 17 at the stadium in Houston, United States.
Sankule Janko there with the sports details. And that's it on this edition of Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Maudo Diouf and Joacinho Capa Gomes for the technical assistance. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.